Hello and welcome to tonight's program, Abandoned Kansas City. I am Shannon Thompson. I am the Story Center Program Manager, and I'm here to welcome you to tonight's program, Abandoned Kansas City, where we'll be talking about Abandoned Kansas City with author and photographer Regina Daniel. But first, I wanted to say this is part of the State of Stories programming. For the next year, the Story Center is partnering with the University of Missouri Extension's Community Arts Program to offer a series of programs that commemorate the Missouri Bicentennial. Called State of Stories, this series of free public programs features storytelling performances and workshops, book conversations, and humanities programs that explore the history and the culture of the Show Me State funding. Funding has been provided in part by the England Marion Coffin Foundation and the William T. Kemper Foundation. More information is available on the State of Stories webpage, and you can find all the rest of our events on mymcpl.org/mystorycenter. Other than that, I'm going to go ahead and welcome Regina.
Thank you
Regina.
for having me.
Thank you for being on tonight. I'm really excited to talk about this collection. I know we've had a chance to talk briefly a little bit about it. I really enjoyed it. I love seeing all these abandoned places in Kansas City. But I thought maybe you would like to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about abandoned Kansas City and what it means to you.
Well, I was born and raised here. I did live a short stint on the East Coast for a while, but Kansas City always has a way of bringing me back. And I love what the city has to offer and all the neat nooks and crannies.
Yeah, I bet. I do too. I know we talked a little bit about some of our favorite places in here. What made you so interested in exploring places that were abandoned in Kansas City and documenting them?
It really didn't start out like that. It just kind of started out, I got my start in Pitcher, Oklahoma. But when, I started doing things here in Kansas City, it was kind of just more about, ooh, let's go, and the excitement of kind of getting in and documenting decay. And then after a while, it's like, wow, these are just more than just a school or more than just a warehouse. They all have their interesting little stories. And I've even gotten to meet people who have like gone to some of these schools or worked at some of these places, and getting to hear kind of like an insider's view of all these places has just kind of made them all the more interesting.
Yeah, I bet. I think it would be really interesting to see all the people who've actually seen the places before it was abandoned and get to talk to them about how different it is now that it is. How did you decide to photograph it? How did you decide to get into photography in particular in regards to these places?
Ever since I was in grade school, I've always just had a camera in my hand, taking pictures of friends and all of that. But then, I don't know. I went, like I said, I went to Pitcher, Oklahoma, and I was kind of, the bug bit me, I guess you could say.
Just a natural passion.
Yeah, when I kind of started doing it, like 1, 2, 3 places, and it's like, wow, this is kind of for me. I'm kind of good at this, and I like doing the research and the due diligence to find all the answers to what these places were and why they closed and when.
What was one of the more interesting things that you learned about Kansas City or one of these abandoned places while researching?
Not one place in particular. I mean, I do have one place in particular that kind of started all this, but Kansas City has an amazing African-American history to it. Like one of my favorite places historically is Wheatley Provident Hospital. And like the foundations of pediatric care started with a Black hospital, all staffed by, African Americans, accredited nurses, and they basically paved the way for pediatric care today and pediatric wards around the world. Wheatley Provident was the template for that. So like basically pediatric care was started by Black nurses in a time when, everything was still segregated.
Wow, that's amazing. And I think that was something that really struck me while I was looking through your collection and reading about it. Just not just the history that you're getting to witness, but also the history you uncover and maybe some of the history that was lost or isn't as well documented. And that really struck me while I was going through your collection. I remember that part in particular. Was there anything unexpected that you came across, like something that was really shocking or just surprising that you wanted people to know about?
It's not in this particular volume of Abandoned Kansas City. It's something that I do plan on writing about in the next volume. Is the impact that the homeless have made on me, and especially since the pandemic. I when we first got into this one apartment building back in April, the Knickerbocker, which is pretty famous around KC, but uh, while there, I met a pregnant homeless girl that kind of impacted my life.
Wow. Yeah, the impact of meeting people, but also seeing these places must be very powerful. Speaking of which, we have Gennard here tonight. He's going to help show some photographs that I thought we could see. So if you want to go ahead and show some of those abandoned Kansas City places that we're going to be talking about. And as he's showing those, I thought we could kind of talk about in the intro of your book, you talked about the morals and values of urban exploring, one of which is not breaking into places. How does someone go about approaching an abandoned property?
For me, if it is completely like boarded up really good, locked up tight, I just kind of wait for an opening to be made. I am not into breaking in or destruction of the property. I'm just there to kind of take pictures and document what's there each time I do go, because I do like to make repeat trips months apart, because the decay is so visible. You have scrappers and homeless and other urbexers, and then you just have people that go in there to ruin it. So there are drastic differences that do take place months apart. And yeah, it's just interesting to kind of walk the perimeter of it, see if there is an opening. I prefer ground level. I'm a firm believer in easy way in, easy way out.
That probably goes back to some safety. That was something I was thinking about when you talk about all the decay and how fast it actually takes place in an abandoned property. What is it like knowing that you're going into a place that, let's say, the floor isn't safe anymore or the roof isn't safe anymore? How does someone stay safe in a situation like this?
The best you can do is just exercise good caution. Make sure you have good lighting so you can see the floor, you can see where you're going. Um, yeah, and just being extra cautious, and even like avoiding some areas of the buildings. Like one of my first schools, the third floor was pretty much collapsed into the second floor, and that was just, we just didn't go up there anymore.
Yep, that makes sense. I don't think I would go up there either. I loved reading about your official tour of the 8th Street Tunnel, and I know Gennard has some photos to show us. You yourself called this one of your crowning achievements. Why did this particular trip stay with you?
This one was just a crowning achievement because it's not a place that a lot of urban exploration explorers get to go to. There have been others that have gone there, but they usually go through like manhole covers in the street. But this was, I had a friend who worked in the building that's above it, and we got a really grand tour from a great Kansas City historian named Ray Elder, and he is actually more of a Kansas City firefighter historian. But it was interesting to just get to go down there, see what's been closed off from the city since like 1956, to even hear his stories about the streetcar in the 8th Street Tunnel. You can almost see it when he was telling his stories.
Yeah, I know we were talking a little bit about history and historical tours and how even Kansas City itself might have forgotten about the 8th Street Tunnel. So it's really interesting to me to learn about something new that I had never even heard about when I was reading your book. Yep. Well,
And the
yeah.
8th Street Tunnel was actually devised because they had the 9th Street incline that went from like the downtown area down into the bottoms. But after the cable snapped and sent the cable car careening down to the bottom, more than once, might I add, that's when they devised the streetcar for the 8th Street Tunnel.
Wow, that is so interesting. And I know you were kind of talking about some places that nobody's seen, but there's also places in your books that you had actually visited before they were abandoned. And one of those places was the Ramada Hotel. I really enjoyed this section. There was something just very vulnerable about it and honest, seeing a place that you've spent time yourself in with friends, and then later having it get abandoned and going to visiting it again afterwards. The decay also seemed to move pretty quickly. Only 2 weeks happened between the abandonment and a lot of the damages that you took in some of your photos. And the photos are very, very striking. What was it like exploring a place that you had spent a lot of time in before it was abandoned and then returning it and seeing it this way?
It was truly sad. It was sad at how quick it happened. It was sad at why it happened. Um, it was sad the things that happened that were in there because there was a couple of fires. A couple people had passed away in the building, one of them due to a fire. The other one was found in an elevator shaft. But it was just sad all around because like no, the owner didn't care. He didn't even care about the employees that were working there at the time that it happened. And yeah, it's just a testament of sadness and not caring.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of these places have a lot to teach us. Do you feel like abandoned places have a lot to teach us in the forms of those lessons, like what a person can get from a story from an abandoned place?
They definitely have history. And I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought there for a second.
Okay.
I'm a little nervous. What was your question again? I'm sorry.
Oh, just what kind of stories can we learn from going to abandoned places or just reading about them and being aware that something has been abandoned? I think, for instance, looking at schools that were abandoned was really hard for me. I was like, oh my gosh, what happened here? Where did those kids end up having to go to school? What was their accessibility like? That's what, to me, when I was reading this book, I was just thinking about, what people lose, but also what your society loses. And by not thinking about those places, more places could end up getting abandoned. So I know that was a long way of saying, like, what kind of stories can we learn? Or you as a photographer, what sort of stories have you learned by looking through all different types of places?
When it comes to schools, that really is just about, for me, it speaks that these schools are closed because of a loss of accreditation. And with that loss of accreditation, that puts, strain on the community, the children to go to other schools that are accredited, or they stay in a school that's unaccredited and they don't really, I don't feel, get as good opportunities as other schools. So in that aspect, I think that it kind of cheats the community and the children and the teachers, like everybody involved.
So we have a comment from Marilyn who says, very interesting. I hope to visit some of these places the next time I go to Kansas City. Do you have a place that you would recommend people visit out of your collection?
Oh, there's just so many. And to pick one, wow. There's this is kind of a beginning stepping stone in urban exploration because it's kind of just so out in the open and easily accessible, is the Vine Street Work Castle. That's one that definitely needs some TLC, but it's definitely worth seeing because it's, a prison that was basically constructed by the prisoners, with local stones, and it's just a unique relic of its time and the neighborhood as well.
You're getting lots of comments. You had one from Rich that said, love what you do and how you think. One from Lisa that says, this is super interesting. I can't wait to read your book. I've put it on hold already. So yeah, that's a really great time for me to mention. We do have this available through the MCPL catalog. if you all want to put it on hold. It is also available online. Speaking of people visiting some of the places that you have gone to, do you have other tips for those who want to explore in your footsteps of urban exploring?
Definitely the buddy system. Going alone is not one of those things you want to do just for the fact that you can encounter a myriad of different people that could possibly, cause you harm or whatever. Um, so definitely the buddy system. If you're really into wanting to get like good pictures, I personally go during the day. I don't really do any nighttime stuff. I depend a lot on natural light. Just make sure you do kind of, if you do go alone, kind of have some self defense weapons with you, nothing too crazy. But I'm definitely a big advocate for the buddy system.
Yeah, the buddy system of taking someone with you and letting other people know where you are going for safety reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how do you choose what to explore next?
Really, it just kind of whatever comes across my radar, I do my due diligence about that place. And then if it is easily accessible to get into, then I just kind of go from there. I don't really discriminate when it comes to abandoned places.
What about what to photograph? Or is it kind of, do you pick things that you want to photograph when you go somewhere? Or is it kind of just you let the place talk to you and lead you and then you take photographs?
I let it talk to me and lead me wherever. However, when I do schools, there are certain bullet points that I do like to hit. I love to make sure that not to negate classrooms or anything, but I'm a real big fan of finding the auditorium, gymnasium, office areas, because, of course, those differentiate from all the, the classrooms that can kind of run the same pattern of looking. I don't want to say you've seen one classroom, you've seen them all, but kinda.
I do remember seeing in your collection some old technology in some of the classrooms. What is some of the things that you've come across while being in classrooms that you're like, oh my gosh, that's not even, no one even uses that anymore?
One of my first schools was Greenwood, and it has since been demolished, but we were there in like 2016. There were pallets. I'm talking like 2, 3 pallets, still shrink wrapped, of computers from 1997. And it's like, how is this even still here?
Wow. Yeah, it makes you wonder. We did have a question from Kristen who said, has anything scary happened to you while exploring?
Yeah, one time there was a house that we were doing. I won't go into too much detail, but we had a gun pulled on us for being there. But if you mean like supernatural experiences, I've never had one of those. Not that I am a bit of a skeptic, but I think it's just the fact that I'm in the zone to there to get photos. I want to look at this, I want to look at that. And I don't think that I'm open for supernatural experiences, but I would have to say the whole gun incident was probably the scariest thing I've had happen.
Yes, that sounds scary. And that's a lot more real, so to speak.
Yes.
You had a question from Barbara who said, would Urban Hikes KC group ever connect with Regina to explore an exploration or a hike? Like, do you have a group where people can reach out to you and connect with you?
Yeah, you guys can shoot me a message on my page, and I'm willing to, like I said, I don't discriminate against anything abandoned. I've done everything from houses, schools, warehouses, even a pool.
And that is her link that we just put up. The next question I was kind of wondering about is your research process. How do you look up places? I know you kind of mentioned that you'll look up a place before you go, but what's your research process from the beginning to the end after you photograph?
Um, it's really simple. I don't want to be the magician who gives away too many of his secrets, but I just start out with Googling an address, and then I just kind of go from there. I see like if there are any news stories involved in it, maybe it was for sale at one time. I definitely do look for links after the address pops up. I do look for like news stories. Um, yeah, and then from there, I guess I kind of just search, whatever news story that is that kind of tells me, oh, this place was such and such. And then I take that name and go from there. So it's just kind of a rabbit hole of one search after another after another.
How do you prioritize the searches? Because I'm sure you probably have more than one place that you want to go to at the time. How do you choose what place you go to next?
Just I don't really know. I just kind of, once it pops up, I might do a couple things in one day. I'll try to, I guess, just go with what kind of comes my way when it comes my way. So if a school happens to come my way, or then next, just a warehouse. I'm planning on going out tomorrow to check out a like abandoned farm and ranch with like 5 buildings on the property and just a house and everything. So that was just one that kind of came my way. And it's like, well, when I get a free day, I'll go and check that out. And then like, if it is open and accessible at that point, I will, of course, explore it that day. But if it's nice and boarded up, I just kind of take my perimeter pictures and then I just watch it and I watch it.
That's fascinating. Have you ever left a camera behind, like the timer cameras where they kind of do a long photograph or just a photograph, like a motion sensor photograph or anything like that?
No, I always do a check of everything before I leave.
Oh,
I,
yeah.
I check my pockets, I check my pack, I check everything because I've had friends that have left things behind, and I don't want to do that. So I've learned by others' mistakes.
Are there places that people who are interested in urban exploring can meet other urban explorers?
I kind of, there is an organization within Kansas City, but me personally, I just kind of, I do my own thing. I just kind of, I have a small network of people. So after like we all kind of discuss things and share things together. From there on, just kind of do my due diligence of my computer research and then just kind of go from there. So there are groups that do meet up, and there have been, mentions of them on the Kansas City subreddit as well. But me, myself, I'm a lone wolf. I kind of do my own thing.
I understand that. Mickey said, "How did you become such a rock star?" Which I just think is such a fun comment.
I know her. What's up, girl? Um, I just come by it naturally, I guess.
Mickey also asked, "What inspired you to publish this topic?"
Um, I I was approached by a publisher after he saw my Urbex page. And really, I had been doing this for a couple years before I was even approached. So I was just content exploring and having my photography page. And then I just applied to do the book. I, wrote the front, the back, and a little bit in between, and sent in some photos. And then they wanted me from there.
Now I have to ask, what is Urbex? I'm not sure I know what that is.
Oh, it's just a shortened word for urban exploration.
Okay, neat. I should have known that, but that makes
Cool.
sense. So you started posting online. I know you have an Instagram as well. Where would you suggest photographers share their work if they want to do that?
Uh, Facebook, I started off there, and then eventually I did move on to also having an Instagram page. So for people who aren't on Facebook, Instagram is a great place. You don't have the drama of Facebook. It's just photos. I follow quite a few people that urbex, some local, some not so local, on Instagram, and it's a really good place to get out there and, put yourself in 30 different hashtags for some real exposure.
Now, I know your photos are really realistic. Do you do any editing of your photos before you share them, or is it just how you take them that you share them?
I do try to be as raw as I can. However, I will kind of lighten them up so you can kind of see some more detail. I'll kind of straighten an angle up if I was kind of maybe off a little bit. But and then I might switch something black and white. But for the most part, I'm not really big into editing because I just, I want to show you what's there. and the decay. And yeah.
Makes sense. Someone commented and said, "I love your room. That my pet monster is awesome." And I thought I'd mention it because we were talking about your room earlier today. If you wanted to expand on it a little bit.
The room that I'm sitting in is my husband has a channel with his BFF, and they do horror movie reviews. And actually, they do all kinds of fun stuff with movies. And this is like their set. And they have like part of their skits is they work in a video store. And this is the back room of the video store where he is supposed to be doing his job. So I'm actually in my husband's YouTube set right now.
It's super fun. So we have another question from Gary Grist who said, "Have you explored abandoned graveyards?"
I have done one. I haven't found a whole lot of abandoned graveyards, but I did find one that was in the middle of this big field, and about 300 yards into it was like this patch of trees. And there is the Fountain Waller Platte County, because there's a Fountain Waller in Clay County as well. But that Platte County plot, there's probably like maybe a whole 15 graves in there. But it is in the middle of this person's like farm. And of course they do all the farming around it and everything. I don't know if the owner of the land takes care and maintains that, but it didn't look very maintained, to be honest with you. But I have found one that was really small and neat and had some kind of deep roots within the Clay and Platte County area.
That is really neat. Is there a difference between exploring a place that's outside and abandoned rather than the interior of a building that is abandoned?
I try to take it all in because, of course, the inside, gets ruined and decayed by, just whatever elements it is that does that. But the outside is just as, vulnerable to, decay and vandalism and destruction.
And someone said the pictures of that graveyard are fantastic. Just going back on that one. The next question that we had was from Barbara, who said, "Any significant discoveries in Westport? Also, what is your geographic range? How far out of the KC proper area do you go, like Excelsior Springs, Weston, Parkville?"
I have actually gone through 6 states. I have done Nebraska, Iowa, Kansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, Arkansas. And I'd kind of be willing to travel anywhere, but I have done some things up in Excelsior Springs. I would love to revisit a couple of them. However, every time I go up there, they're really good about having them boarded up. So I haven't been able to revisit some of those. And Parkville, I'm trying to think if I've done anything up there. I've done stuff towards like the Farley area, but wherever it's abandoned, I'll go.
Do you have a place that is your number one place that you would love to travel to and see that was abandoned?
Ooh, I have 3 for America and one on a different continent, but I would really love to get a chance, like a good few days just in St. Louis alone. I mean, there's just so much there. Gary, Indiana is another one. And then like it's a hard toss up between either Flint, Michigan or Detroit, Michigan. And then if I actually ever got to go like overseas to do anything, this is going to sound very cliche, but I would really love to go to Chernobyl and Pripyat.
Wow, yeah, those would all be really, really fascinating. Is there certain places within those places that you already have your eyes set on, like a specific small place?
Uh, in Pripyat, I would really love to go through like the apartment buildings just to see what people couldn't grab when they had to, get everything and get out while they could. The Ferris wheel. Um, Really, I don't necessarily
Endless.
have to see the reactor itself, but just where they all lived and played and, walked the streets, the parks they sat at, stuff like that. That would just be interesting to see what exactly was left behind when, things, kind of hit the fan and everybody had to kind of jam out of there.
Mm-hmm. So one of the places they've gone to, do you typically know why it was abandoned, or is that part of your research process where you go and learn why it was abandoned?
I do try to know why before, but if not, I definitely do find out afterwards. If I can't find out online, I don't have a problem asking locals, going to social media to find my answers. Social media has actually been very helpful quite a few times when trying to find, hey, what was this place? And then the answers just kind of come flooding in, like right outside Belton. This the silliest thing, but I did a concrete water slide. And I kind of posted on social media in this certain like Martin City, Grandview, Belton kind of group. And so many people were just so helpful. That was an awesome group, awesome post of just people talking about, oh my God, we used to spend summers there, and that was my first job, and talking about they met friends there, their first jobs there, summers there. So social media has really been a helpful tool in researching as well.
So yeah, there's lots of stories that are almost abandoned as well that you get to bring to light with your photography and stories. It's really amazing. I was
Yes.
going to show some of your photography again, just for people who are just now joining us. We would love for you to also let us know about how you liked this program. It's in the evaluation, which is in the comments below. But we are going to take questions for probably a few more minutes, and then we'll probably end for the night. So if you have any more questions, go ahead and let us know. The form is in the comments.
And thank you, everybody, for your questions and comments and showing up tonight.
Yes, thank you. You had a comment from Christy. You said some of your bridge shots outdoors are absolutely amazing.
I love when I can find an abandoned bridge. There's one, it's kind of on the Kansas side of the Bottoms that one was a pretty sweet little find. I don't go too far onto the bridge because I'm kind of a wuss when it comes to heights.
I understand that. I'm afraid of heights too, but it's nice to live vicariously through your photography.
Thank you. Something about this photo here that's on the screen now. This kind of was a pattern for quite some time for me, but like every school that I went into, you can see that the ropes were hanging still, like almost every school that I went to. And I did a photo grouping of it together in the first Kansas City book about how every time I went to the gym, the ropes were still hanging. Like these places are a hot mess. They're torn up, they're broken, they're vandalized, but here they are. These ropes are still just hanging there.
That is amazing.
It's interesting what is vandalized and torn up and what isn't. I did a school not too long ago where once again, just about everything in the school was broken, couple of fires, big hot mess, but the notices for like the school monthly like lunch program and everything was still in like the plastic sleeve taped to the door. And it's like, wow, this place is falling apart, but they still have the lunch menu here.
Wow. Yeah, that is really interesting. The things that you wouldn't think would stick around, but versus the things that do.
It's kind of like lightning. You just never know what's going to be hit and what's not.
I love seeing those photos again. I was just going to encourage everyone to grab Abandoned Kansas City. We have it. Yep, there it is on the screen. We have it in our collection at MCPL. And Regina, you also have a couple of other collections. Did you want to give them a shout out really quick?
I actually didn't. I meant to bring them down with me to hold it up or whatever, but I do have an Abandoned Kansas City Volume 2. And then I also have Abandoned Picture Oklahoma, which is where I first started. And you'll see some of my 2014 photography in there. And then I went back in 2019. The town now is pretty much all gone. It's been demolished and is actually a crime scene now. There was a couple girls who went missing in another part of Oklahoma in 1999, and the guy who was guilty of it just last year or in 2018 was like, hey, we buried these girls in Pitcher, Oklahoma. But I mean, not to defend this guy, but he couldn't really say where they were because it was so different in 1999 to today. I mean,
Wow.
it truly is unrecognizable, and it's not just because it's been abandoned and, just worn down, but a tornado also, tore out half the town and killed a few people in the process. And,
Wow.
oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was thinking about also the differences between when you have an abandoned building from people abandoning it and causing damage versus when the earth starts to kind of come back, vines, grass, a tornado coming through, and just the differences and how you might know some of the story, but not all of the story.
That tends to be the case with more rural places. I have to say that really slow, or I just sound really weird. But like, I just did a big Eastern Kansas road trip of 20 towns, and there is just so much where, people have just up and moved due to, wanting better opportunities, moving to different places. And yeah, nature really just overtakes it, and wood starts to rot, the house starts to collapse in, and then eventually it's just part of the earth again.
That's amazing. Yes. Well, did you have anything else about your collection that you wanted to bring attention to? I didn't want to show everything from your collection because I want you all to go ahead and pick up this book and read it. It's really powerful. But there's so much in it. I'm just flipping through it right now, and I know I could flip through it, 20 times over and see something new. That's how many details there are. It was really, really touching. It was a touching read for me.
When you were talking about the Ramada earlier, that was one that I did. I got to see it like when it was an active place. I got to be in there when it was an active place. And that was like the first time I really got to see it go from an active business to the first week it was empty. We were in there and it was like everybody was on break. There were still like housekeeping carts in the hallway. The beds were made. Just everything was still as everybody was working. Papers were on the desk, like the next shift was going to be coming in. And then, like a week after that, it was a completely different story. And then eventually, like it just ended up getting demolished. But seeing it from before, middle, and after, that one was sad, touching, realistic. Um, yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of those stories are like that for somebody, right? So even the stories that maybe you get to be there when it was open, there was always somebody at the other places that were open before it was abandoned, which is why it makes it so powerful. There was one last question from Barbara. They want to connect with you. What is a way that people can reach out to you and just kind of keep up with your photography?
You can feel free to message me through my Facebook, the Red Vixens Photography, or if you're not on Facebook, I do have Instagram. I do try to answer messages as quickly as I can because I know what it's like when you send a message out there. I like a quick response, so I try to give people what I want. And yeah, just shoot me a message and I will get back to you.
Well, thank you so much for coming on tonight, Regina. We really
Thank
liked
you for
Abandoned
having
Kansas
me.
City. Yeah, thank you. And this program was part of the State of Stories program. You can look up other State of Stories programs on our website. And again, you're getting lots of comments. Love your books of photography. I really enjoyed this.
Thank
And
you.
I really enjoyed speaking with you tonight. The evaluation's in the comments below, so go ahead and please fill out that form at your convenience. We'd love to hear from you. And of course, if you want to keep up with Regina, reach out to her via Instagram or follow her on Facebook. Thank you again.
Thank you. I look forward to hearing from any of you that contact me, and thanks for the love and the support. It's truly appreciated.
All right.